Why are the Texans just 8-point underdogs against the Chiefs? Why this could be DeMeco Ryans' hardest task ahead. I asked him about that and a lot more. It's playoff time, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good luck.
It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source.
DeMeco's toughest task, and why are the Texans just 8-point underdogs against the Kansas City Chiefs? It is the Locker Room, #1 source for Texans digital content. I am Landry Locker. You can see me here throughout the day. I'm on the scene, #1 radio host in town now, all digital. I appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along, all that. We are covering the Texans versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Second time they've played in a short time. I would say this is a little bit different, though. You have a fully healthy Chiefs array of skill position guys. There's some speed on the outside that the Chiefs do possess, but you also have a fully healthy Texans front seven for the first time. They've kind of gotten hot at the right time, they being the defense. I'm not ready to say any great things about this offense, although they did have somewhat of a pulse the other day. And there's also the rust factor that everyone keeps bringing up. Patrick Mahomes, I just heard Troy Aikman say it as the Vikings were getting their ass whooped by the Rams. Patrick Mahomes hasn't thrown a pass since Christmas. So is that some sort of effect? I got takes on all this, but let's hear from the head coach first. DeMeco Ryans spoke today. I was on the scene. I got the last questions asking about this skill position group and the fact that you haven't really seen them fully healthy. Does that pose any extra challenges? But let's hear what DeMeco had to say today. John McClain in the building. How about that? He had the first question.
You guys did 5 series, one play changes the entire outcome. Can you talk about the player and the coach's perspective?
When you have struggles in a game, player, coach, offensively, defensively, special teams, it's a matter of just continuing to stay persistent and understand that that's why the games are 4 quarters, right? You just have to stay the course and understand where those mistakes happen and how you can improve. But it's a matter of everybody continue to believe in each other and do the things we need to do to play well. Everybody knows when you make mistakes or you're inconsistent, they know what the issues are. It's just a matter of getting them fixed within game. And we're fortunate to be able to overcome some mistakes that we had in this last game with the turnovers. We were able to answer, get some stops defensively. Kamari is able to go and get a takeaway after one of them. So it's just a matter of the team continue to play around each other. That's how you overcome those.
What about one big play transforming an offense like that?
Yeah, when you have the big play as CJ made, it does, lift everyone. I think just the energy, the morale of the entire team, even though it's not going great, when you see that one play, it sparked the energy, sparked the enthusiasm for our entire team, and it was a difference maker for us, and our guys fed off of it.
Remember the first time you watched Kamari Lassiter and at Georgia, and just what were some of the initial impressions, and now kind of what he's become?
And Kamari has been consistent. He's a tough, hard-nosed player, old school. He's a corner who loves to play physical, which is rare these days. Kamari likes to tackle, and he brings a different intensity out on the perimeter than most corners because of his physicality, but also just his smarts, intelligence, and his playmaking ability.
DeMeco, can you talk about the opportunity your team has this week to do something this franchise has never done with if you can get a win?
We're excited about the opportunity we have. We understand what's in front of us. Great team. KC has done a great job for the past few years of really dominating the league, being there at the end. They have great coaching staff, great players, great team all the way across the board. So it's a really tough challenge for us. We're excited about the opportunity we have versus KC. We know it's a tough team to beat, right? It's going to take everything that we have. It's going to take all 4 quarters. Similar to our last game, we just have to stay the course, remain persistent throughout the game, and find a way to win in those critical moments.
faced Kansas City early, and like you said, you were in that game. That wasn't a game you dominated. What do you take from that as you prepare to go and face them this weekend?
Different game. I don't take much from it. It was a game that was that week. You know, it's different circumstances that happened in that particular week. Now it's a new game for me. Fresh start, new game, right? We'll attack it just like it's our first time playing these guys again. So we'll go in with a fresh set of eyes and see the things we need to do to be better, the things we need to do to close out the game. And that's how I always go into each game with a fresh.
I mean, I think most of those things are on the offensive side of the ball. I know DeMeco's kind of a perfectionist. I got a feeling he's probably really, really emphasizing that lapse where McConkey got loose and had the long touchdown. But I think most of those things where they need to be better is offense. You can't piss around on offense the way you did against the Chargers and win. You just can't. Like, you can't have that happen. Hell, the last time the Texans played the Chiefs, it was a close game. One of the more costly moments was CJ Stroud's interception at the end of the first half where they were able to go steal 3 points. Damn near stole 7. So you can't do that. You can't fumble on the first play if you're John Mechie. You can't fumble on the dumbass double pass that Bobby Slowick called if you're Joe Mixon. You can't throw the interception if you're CJ Stroud. Now, the defense is going to have to rise up in certain moments, but they held them to 3 after the Mechie fumble. They got the interception right back after CJ. That was Lassiter, previously mentioned Kamari Lassiter. And after the Mixon thing, they got to stop too. So you can't do that. And that's kind of where the improvement is. Defensively, I know DeMeco's probably had talks with Bullock about getting greedy, but that's where it is. On the Super Chat, Space City Baller says Clay Martin is officiating Sunday. We're screwed. I don't know much about Clay Martin. I just know the Chiefs get the whistles. So that's kind of another thing that there is. But here is more from DeMeco.
Fresh set of eyes, not really harping on a lot of what happened in the previous game.
Defending every blade of grass on the field. When it comes to defending Patrick Mahomes and all the angles and the things he does to
Aaron got
passing lanes, what are some of the special
hey.
challenges of trying to account for him?
Whenever you're tasked with playing, you call it 11-on-11 football with the quarterback who is able to run the ball, it just presents different challenges. Like, you have to be sticky in coverage. You have to plaster. That's the thing. You think you cover guys once and the play is still going on, and you have to look to cover them twice. So guys have to be very disciplined when you're playing in coverage versus Mahomes, because we know his escapability and not just him running the ball, but also the threat of the run and him still being able to keep his eyes downfield and make passes. Guys are wide open a lot on their film, right, because of the threat that he poses, and he just requires so much attention because he's such a elusive guy in the pocket. He's such a unique playmaker with the different angles and the way he can throw the football, the way he gets the ball out, whether it's underarm, sidearm, however he wants to get it out. He has the confidence to get the ball to his playmakers.
Okay.
Derek has a unique ability to track balls in the air. What do you think about that ability in him, and does it remind you of anything you've seen?
Yeah, Derek has done a great job all year of, when people challenge him down the field, he has a great ability to track the football and go make the play. Not many guys have that ability to track the football. That's why a lot of guys play DB, because they can't catch it. But Derek does a good job of, playing with great awareness, but also having great hands to finish the play and make teams pay.
It's obvious what Joe brings this team on the field. Like, everyone gets that. But off the field, his mentality, what does he bring this team, just his mental state, in between weeks?
Joe provides confidence as he brings
Swag,
it every week.
Chip on the shoulder.
The way he goes about his business, what he has to say to the guys all throughout the week, he provides confidence. Like, you see a confident guy who's trying to exude that confidence off on his teammates, and that's what he brings. Confidence. He brings positive energy to everyone, and that's what you need at this point in time of the year. Like, you have to believe first and foremost, and Joe brings that belief. And if you don't have it, you hear him talk, you'll get it really quickly. So
much of a boost is it? How much of a boost is it to have a special teams unit that makes the kind of big plays like yours has been doing for you this year?
Special teams just came up. He came up big for us, making some impact plays. Anytime special teams can affect the game, where it's taking the ball away, blocking a kick, like it changes the game drastically. And our guys have made some plays throughout the year, whether it's executing a fake punt, blocking kicks,
Been
getting
elite.
great returns.
Elite for years.
It's all about winning that hitting yardage battle.
Years.
And our special teams has done a really good job all year of that.
Coach, I got a chance to
100% elite special teams. Been elite since the Texans weren't elite. When they were dumpster fire, special teams was elite. Frank Ross has done a hell of a job.
speak with some of the players after the game, and it was the same. As far as the last 2 weeks is concerned, they've been talking about how good the practices have been heading into the Tennessee game, heading into this wild card game. Was there anything different, or did you just see that, Joe even told us there's not a lot of do-overs that we have to do like we, previously or earlier in the season. What was it about these practices that was different?
With our practices the past couple of weeks, the difference for me has been how locked in our guys have been. When our guys work the right way, it shows up in the game. Right? We have practices where we're doing a lot of repeats or guys are not quite on it. Like it shows up, the inconsistencies show up in the game. So for me, I've always been a stickler for the work you put in throughout the week. It'll show up in some way, some form of fashion on game day. So I just always implore our guys our first day out, like there's no time to waste. There's no wasted reps. We don't need to waste time when we're in practice because all those things will show up later, in the week. So it's important to me that we work the right way. And when I talk about being relentless and effort and all the physicality, all the things that I preach to our guys, I want to see it throughout the week. And when we exhibit that throughout the week, it helps us to play better on game day.
I was just going to say, there's a lot of the big names are going to stand out, of course, from this game with CJ, Joe, DeMeco, Will, Derek. But what about those guys who also contributed, like a Miles Bryant, like a D'Angelo?
Miles Bryant was good the other day. It's going to be a little bit more difficult against KC. He was good.
To you about that?
Good.
Going back and watching the tape versus the Chargers, I could name everybody on our team, right, who stood out, who contributed, and were a big part of us playing well in that game. First, I think up front, I challenged our defensive line to play well, and Foley, him being back, and that was the reason why we played well in the run game. I thought he impacted the game there. Azeez making a huge play on a 3rd and 2, physical play, getting them to 4th down. Azeez Henry was consistent with where he was supposed to be all day in coverage. Miles Bryant stepping in, playing nickel. He helped us with guys just with the communication, getting guys aligned, being where they have to be, and him just being able to do his job consistently. Just a lot of guys all across the board helped us to win this game. So, and that's what team football is about, and that's what you need now going down the stretch. You need everybody to contribute. And I always tell our guys, like, our best players have to play their best, right? If you consider yourself our best player, then we need your best. And that's all everybody who suits up is our best player, all 48 guys who suit up. So I need everyone's best. We need everyone's best so we can go out and compete at the highest level.
DeMeco, I don't know what your relationship has been with Andy Reid over the years, but you're coming up through the ranks before you landed this job. What have you admired most about what he's been able to accomplish specifically there at Kansas City?
What I've admired most about Andy is the consistency in which he's led his teams. He doesn't change in his approach. It's been effective. Guys love to play for Andy. I love playing for Andy. He's a great head coach, smart coach, puts his players in positions to thrive. You see him, kind of tailor the offense to fit Patrick's abilities, and it's worked out well for him. Right, he's been very successful. Right, he has a lot of good coaches around him as well. Andy does a great job of just finding a way to win. Whatever it takes to win games, Andy's going to find a way to do that. And that's why he's been one of the most successful coaches, in our game.
Can you talk a little bit about, there's a lot of credit given to your guys up front on the end, Will, Danielle, but you mentioned Foley, just the work that you get from that entire front, a guy like DeMeco, the whole front seven. This is the first time you've had, I guess, that whole front starting seven. Is that what you envision this team starting the season?
And seeing all of our, all 9 guys we have on the defensive line who are up on game day, they all help in some form or fashion. But when it comes to the run game specifically, like the run game isn't stopped without our D tackles, right? And that's Foley, that's Mario, Tim Settle, Tommy stepping in, DeMeco. It's like all those guys contribute. And with them playing with great awareness, they're smart players. So that allows us to play. It's not just, firing off the ball, playing blind. Like they play with great awareness, and they put us in position to make a lot of plays in the run game by eliminating space. So that D-line, it's about a collective effort from all those guys and them working together. I know a lot of praise goes to our edge rushers with Will and Daniil, but a lot of those things that they're able to do is set up by the guys on the inside. So the way those guys continue to work together and feed off of each other, that'll be important to our success moving forward.
Nico Collins had a big game, actually set record passing DeAndre Hopkins. How much do you need from the other guys to complement him and do a little more than what you had against the Chargers?
Very proud of Nico for what he's been able to accomplish just all year. Everything that he's done. Everyone knows the ball is going to him. He still makes the play. So excited for him and just his trajectory as a pro, and he's done an outstanding job this entire year. And when it comes to other guys around him, for us, it's just about how we need to move the football to gain yards. Whoever is tasked with getting the ball, just want guys to protect the ball, press forward. It really doesn't matter. If you get it, do your best with the football.
So much of the go ahead, Steve.
Obviously, you're attacking the machine, but now, as a defensive coordinator, obviously your defense is tackling well, but they take the ball away a lot. What is the biggest reason, in your perspective, why you guys are able to have these games where you force multiple interceptions on some of the best quarterbacks?
We're able to force a lot of takeaways because we have a lot of good players. It's not about me. It's about the players out there making the plays, and the guys have done an outstanding job. That's it's our main thing that we go into every week is talking about attacking the football, taking the football, because we know when you take the football away, it just raises your percentages of winning the football game. So every week our goal is to win the game. So we want to win the game and we take the ball away. It's the defense helping the team win the game. So our guys done a great job of owning that. Not only, again, I talked about practice earlier, but they have to do it in practice, and we emphasize it in practice, and it shows up on game day.
That mentality on defense, that swarm mentality, it's so much the mental side of desire to play that way. Who do you see leading and holding that standard of like, this is the way we play defense here, and like anything below that is just unacceptable?
Who leads the swarm charge? That would be
loves messing with Will.
Well, you really can't go out there if you're not about it. Like, and that's what's unique about our defense. Like, it's not one guy. If you wanna talk about one guy, you can talk about Will as the guy who leads it. You talk about Aziz as the one guy. You can talk about Stingley. I can name all those guys, because each one of our guys, when you play defense, the way I believe in playing defense, like if you're not about the swarm mentality, then it's going to be hard for you to play defense for me, because I see it one way.
Okay.
This time of the year, Kansas City,
Me right here.
probably the healthiest they've been skill position wise on offense. How challenging is what they have weapon wise for Mahomes?
They present a unique challenge because when you talk about their skill position, they have 5 guys who are all elite playmakers, right? Everybody they put on the field that's ineligible has a chance to create an explosive and make plays. And it's not always the explosive play down the field. It can be, worthy just on a 1-yard pass and him turn it into an explosive. So they present probably the biggest challenge we faced all year. And it takes everyone, right? That's why I talk about our defense. Like, it's going to be a collective effort from everybody. It's not just stopping one guy. It's not just stopping Kelsey, right? Their running backs is really good. I don't think Piron gets a lot of credit, but he's a guy who's one of the smartest guys when it comes to pass pro, protecting, blocking, running routes. Like, he's another guy you have that you can't sleep on him as well. So they do a really good job of. I think Patrick does a really great job just distributing the football to whoever's open. And it just reminds you of everybody. Makes the analogy of the point guard and in the NBA, but that's what he is. He's truly point guard, and he's dishing the ball to whoever's open. And it's not only down the field, it's the short passes. That guys open, he's getting the football, and those guys are converting and creating explosives. So everybody, sideline to sideline, we have to play with great awareness, great eye discipline. We have to tackle really well.
Is there any more challenge to, like, from a defensive coordinator standpoint, where you really haven't had the visual of all these guys on the field healthy at the same time?
No challenge. We'll attack what they do, and we'll see how it turns out. All right.
All right, there you go. That's DeMeco. So there you go. I think it was cool to see him, by the way, give Samaji some love. He's done a good job of laying out a nice career for himself. Know him, Mixon went to OU together, played together at Cincinnati. It's kind of a guy who's laid out a nice career for himself. This is a really, really dangerous Kansas City group of skill position guys, especially as compared to what we thought that the Chiefs skill position guys would look like say at the start of the season, before they traded for Hopkins, before we didn't know how long Hollywood would be out. Hollywood's back. They've kind of gotten Xavier a little bit more comfortable, worthy. Kelsey, he's not what he once was. He's kind of washed, but he's still very smart. He's very battle tested, and he has the potential to flip the switch. I thought it was interesting how DeMeco said it's not really one guy. It's not. Like last week, McConkey, for the most part, like he was the one guy you worry about. They got guys who can make plays all over the place. So there is some danger, and there's also not the visual, which DeMeco said he doesn't consider too much of a big deal. We'll have to see about that. And we'll see what Andy Reid does with the layoff, which has also become a big talking point. Question that I've asked, and I don't know where this is going to move. I think this line is definitely going to move. Right now it's at 8. I don't know if it goes down or I don't know if it goes up. I could easily see this line getting bet down to 7.5. Like right now, you asked the question why the Texans are only 8-point dogs. I think the front seven, I think their elite front seven is such to where they can kind of contain Kansas City, because it doesn't matter how fast your skill position guys are. It doesn't matter how good Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, DeAndre Hopkins, Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco, Samaji P. Ryan, Kareem Hunt. It doesn't matter how good these guys are, and none of them are like elite at this point. But it doesn't matter if you're knocking Patrick Mahomes on his ass. And the weakness of the Kansas City Chiefs has been the offensive line. Now, the one thing that the Chiefs know how to do, they know how to win in different ways. But as far as the Texans being 8-point dogs, I think what they possess as far as being elite is something that can slow down what you may be concerned about with the Kansas City Chiefs. And here's the other thing. If we just look at this and we look at the whole thing, and I'm seeing this like Kansas City 6-0 with Clay Martin. They lost one game last year that they were trying to win. Like, what is that? Like, let's not turn this into a whack-ass corner. Kansas City gets the calls. I get that. Like, we all know that they get the calls no matter what. Let's not turn this into the whack-ass NBA where we're like talking about Scott Foster is the referee and stuff. Kansas City's won 2 straight Super Bowls. Kansas City has won a hell of a lot of games since Patrick Mahomes got there. They're always there at the end. I think I've been to the AFC Championship every time. So the chances are you can close your eyes and throw a dart at a roster of referees, and the chances are they've won a lot of games with that referee. So let's not like Clay Martin. I don't know anything about Clay Martin. Like, we're talking about Clay Martin. Like, what is this? Is this like the Scott Foster thing? Like, do the Chiefs suck with anyone else? Clay Martin goes out there and says this thing. I just looked him up. Like, let's not do that. Like, yeah, they get the calls, but oh no, 6-0 with Clay Martin. Yeah, they're good. There's a reason they're 3 games away from doing something that no one else has done. But the Texans are not, it's not like the Texans are just like if Clay Martin weren't officiating, you think the Texans should be favored by 7? Like I just like he's one of the top NFL refs. They're one of the top NFL teams. They win games. You can do whatever you want. For me personally, I think that is I keep seeing the name Clay Martin. I'm like, who the hell is that? Oh, that's that white referee that I see all the time. This is not the NBA. This is the NFL. We know Kansas City gets calls. I don't care about Clay Martin. That's me. You might. So let's just look at Kansas City and their margin of victory over the course of the season. And I'll pull up the visual as well. I'm on the ESPN side. And let's just look at, because they found some wacky ass ways to read. Jalen says, read the script. The game they played, the actors, they get paid millions. Conspiracy theories. So against Baltimore, they won by 7. That was at the start of the year. That was when Likely was in the back of the end zone, kind of about. Was that game, or it might have been the next one? Who knows? They beat Cincinnati 26-25, so they won that one by 1. They went to Atlanta. They beat the Falcons by 5. This was with Cousins still. At Los Angeles, they won by 7. So we've yet to see a 2-possession win. They beat the Saints 26-13. Then they had the bye week. They beat the 49ers 28-18. So there's 10. They beat Vegas by 7. They beat Tampa Bay in overtime by 6. They beat Denver by 2. That was a wacky ass game. They lost to Buffalo. Then they beat Carolina by 3. Bryce Young was actually really good. Carolina's defense let him down. They beat Vegas by 2, and that was with that weird ass. They blew the play dead, but Kansas City was able to recover the fumble. That was them getting some love from refs. They beat the Chargers by 2. They beat Cleveland by 14. Then they beat the Texans by 8. They beat Pittsburgh by 19. So their margin of victory is really not that high. Like this is not a blow you out type of squad, the Kansas City Chiefs. So I actually found myself, and I don't know about you people, and I didn't mean you people, the community here. What I want to ask this question. I just want to see what it looks like in the chat. Was Kansas City the team that you wanted to play? Like, despite the fact that we know the Texans, they weren't going to be favored in any scenario heading into the playoffs against Baltimore, Buffalo, or Kansas City. But was Kansas City the team that you wanted to face? Because it seems like the possibility of playing the Baltimore Ravens didn't seem that fun to a lot of people. And in fact, I found people saying they wanted the Bills to win more so than the Broncos. Now, the Broncos was like, oh, there might be a pipe dream that you get to somehow, if something crazy happens, host an AFC championship game. But it felt like, just on the surface, Texans fans would rather face the Chiefs than the Baltimore Ravens, despite the fact the Chiefs are chasing the piece of history that they're chasing. Jason on the Super says, hope experience of last year's division round will help. Can hurt. Can hurt. That's for sure. But I'm seeing a lot of yeses. Lamar kills us from Super Bowl 1982. A1. Shout out to A1. I'd rather play in the Chiefs than hope Allen runs Lamar. Yeah, you hope they kind of rough each other up, right? So those guys have to play. Life of Colby, I hope Buffalo beats the Ravens too to make it easier for us. It's not going to be easy no matter what. We all know that. I believe we can beat Baltimore as well. That's a believer right there. Definitely KC over Baltimore. Jalen says Lamar owns the Texans, bro. 6-0 versus Texans, 3-0. But yeah, I got you. Oh, against the Texans. Yeah, I was just talking about it's against DeMeco. Yeah. He's done his thing for sure. You're right on that. But it does feel like, and I don't think even the same people wishing this are sitting there saying they're going to pick the Texans against the Chiefs, but it does seem like, based on the fact that the Chiefs don't really tap the brakes off of people, they don't really kick teams' asses. It does kind of feel like Kansas City was who you wanted to see, given the options. So maybe eventually you get to the scenario where you get to see what it looks like against Buffalo or Baltimore. But I think it's safe to say, just based on the sample size, and that's X, streets, the community, which we're 300 deep right now at 11:12. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Be sure to subscribe to SNL Texans Talk. Best duo in the game, myself, Cody Stutes. Best individuals, one elite stable. It's NWO style. SNL on all podcast platforms, as well as right here. Evan on the soup says, Tank Dell stays healthy, we win that game. I mean, Tank was looking good. He hadn't looked good all season, and he was looking good in that game. And I think it kind of shell-shocked him a little bit there. Rock WP does bring up an interesting case, and I think this is – I actually think you can make a case, and I don't think we're used to this. But with Flowers banged up, Baltimore's perhaps a different squad. I also thought, and it was an early-ass thought. I don't know if y'all thought this. I kind of feel like Denver was laying out kind of a early on, and in the first half, they just lost the momentum. Like, Denver scored on their opening drive, and I actually think they lost the game at the end of the first half, where Bo Nix put together a perfect drive. They had a field goal. They could have went into the half, I believe, tied. They would have been tied. I think it would have been 10-10, if I'm not mistaken, or been 13-10, something like that. They missed the field goal, and from there, the wheels just completely fell off. But I thought the way that they were guarding the Bills was actually a pretty nice blueprint. They had the deep safeties, and it seemed like Buffalo was struggling in the red zone. It's hard to run on the Texans as well, and we've seen the Texans with Josh Allen. But Baltimore without Zay Flowers, I think, is a little bit of an issue. You make a case that Kansas City probably has the best skill position guys. Now you start factoring in Derrick Henry and Baltimore's tight ends. Maybe that's not the case, but Kansas City has a lot of skill position guys, a lot of options. But Baltimore without Zay is interesting. Who knows what he looks like? Here's the other factor, because I've been given a hell of a lot of flowers, like a lot of flowers. Speaking of flowers, I've been given a lot of flowers to Kansas City, but I do think there's a little bit of a factor with these receivers, and I brought this up earlier in the year. I know enough about these guys. I've been following these guys for a long, long time. I know the type of ball they like to play. I know the ball that they're capable of, to where, look, I'm taking the over in Hollywood Brown receiving yards no matter what. I've heard that it's probably going to be 40 yards. I'm going to take the over in that because I don't think you can dedicate a lot of attention to him. But those wide receivers, and I said this today on SNL, they're little, man. Like, Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown are little. They are tiny. And DeAndre Hopkins is not the DeAndre Hopkins we're used to. He's capable of making big plays. He's capable of making elite plays. It's not like they have DeAndre Hopkins in his prime. But Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown are going to be going against two physical corners that beat wide receivers' asses. Wide receivers much bigger than these two guys, Hollywood and Xavier. And these guys could end up getting loose, but there's also an opportunity, I think, to get really rough with these guys and rough these guys up. And I know these guys don't like cold weather. I know the Texans don't like cold weather for the most part. They're not used to it. I think your body kind of gets used to it, even if you're just walking to the car, going outside and practicing like the Chiefs do playing it. You naturally get kind of used to it. I know for a fact Xavier Worthy does not like cold weather. I know for a fact Hollywood Brown does not like cold weather. And those little guys all bundled up and then taking licks from Kamari Lassiter or Derek Stingley, or even getting jammed at the line of scrimmage and pushed a little bit, that is something to keep an eye on too. And Hollywood's been a little bit roughed up. We haven't seen Xavier Worthy really nicked up, but keep an eye on that. Xavier Worthy's from California. I mean, he played his college ball in Austin. He wasn't going to a Big Ten school. There was talk about him transferring from Texas. The transfer was going to be to USC. Hollywood Brown's from Florida. He went to OU. He wasn't really doing his thing in Baltimore. He ended up going to Arizona. He doesn't like the cold weather either. He's not in Kansas City because he likes that weather. He's in Kansas City because the 1 year prove it deal with Patrick Mahomes is something that a lot of teams like. But I would keep an eye on these guys and whether or not they're going to get roughed up. I promise you they don't like cold weather. I hate cold weather. If it's 55, I'm miserable. I've always said this. Jamarcus Russell's one of my favorite players of all time because he was bundled up when it was 55, 60 degrees. Sitting there with the damn big jacket. That's my dude right there. Love me some Jamarcus Russell just because of that. Now, all things aside, he also liked to sip some syrup. I used to like to sip some syrup too. But shout out to Jamarcus. Those guys don't like the cold weather. They don't want to get physical either. They're not known as being physical receivers. DeAndre Hopkins will welcome the smoke. You want to, if Derek Stingley, whether DeAndre Hopkins is 22 in his prime, whether he's 50 years old, I can promise you, if you try to get under DeAndre Hopkins' pads and you try to get physical with him, he likes it. He is going to. It might actually fire his ass up. He likes it. Nico Collins, he likes it. Those big mofos, those physical freaks, they like it. Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, they don't even like walking out to the field in this crap. And even if it was perfect weather, they don't like you getting physical with them at the line of scrimmage. So this speed element that we speak of on the outside that can still be a factor, you can rough those little mofos up. You got a big opportunity to do that. Going back to the super chat, Evan says this game has to be grimy and ugly, I believe. And that's the game that the Texans have to play. You're right. But here's the thing. If you were facing Baltimore or Buffalo, and Kansas City can maybe do this, but I think there would have to be some self-inflicted wounds. The Texans can't get in a shootout with either one of those teams. That's not what a Texans win looks like. It's not what it looks like. Kansas City's not really built like that either, though. And this Texans defense isn't built to just get the brakes tapped off them. Happened against Baltimore. Different situation. That wasn't like a do or die type of game. Kind of awkward. I didn't even want the guys to play in that game. But yeah, it has to be ugly. It has to be front seven. But the corners, I'm telling you, those little ass dudes, man, they can barely ride roller coasters. Like they do not want the physicality of Stingley and Kamari Lassiter, and they don't even want to be outside in this crap. Let's just be serious. Florida, California, they know the deal. It's minus 11 at my house right now. Nut up, Landry. Hey, shout out to you, my friend. I forgot where Doyle was. Shout out to you. That is miserable for me. I can't hang with that. Minus 11. Where are you at? Is that where is Doyle? Doyle, tell me where you're at. Because I'm going to avoid that place like the plague. Montana. Oh my God. Shout out to Montana. My God. Whew. Minus 11. Shout out to you, Doyle. My guy, Montana. We're all over the place. But the little cold weather hating receivers, I think there's an opportunity there. Something else I kind of want to touch on, and I think the Texans have kind of gotten there, but I think this is interesting when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs. Evan on the soup. We need Mahomes limping off the field on a series. Got to rough him up. He had that high ankle sprain, though, right? Where he was able to practice the next day. They should have gotten fined for lying about that. High ankle sprain? Come on, brother. He ain't God. He might be the QB God, but he ain't God. They made it sound like he was walking out on water with a high ankle sprain. Dude was still moving. The hell out of here with that. There ain't enough shots to get you moving like that. Don't wish injury, but he had to feel us. Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, hey, man, I know what you mean. Rough his ass up. I got you. The other thing I think about this game that I think is interesting, like when we're talking about the important elements, like the Texans have improved their front seven, and I think they've added a lot of guys who were going to get paid, but they probably had a few options, and they decided they wanted to be in Houston because it's a team kind of knocking on the door. and it's an opportunity to compete and all that type of stuff. The Chiefs are just the ultimate example of when you're really, really good and you provide players with opportunities to compete at the highest level that a lot of them haven't competed at, they just want to be there. Like DeAndre Hopkins was willing to accept the trade to the Chiefs or go to the Chiefs, however the hell he got there. He was willing to do that. You see that with a lot of the guys that they just had. Hollywood Brown, he wanted the 1-year deal, the 1-year prove it deal. He went to the Chiefs. So as we look at, and this is kind of an off-season type of discussion, but like as we look at when the Texans have to give Derek Stingley extension and they have to start paying guys, like if you build a program, and I'm not going to sit here and say you're going to build it like the Chiefs because that's kind of historic and it's probably not going anywhere anytime soon as long as that mofo is playing quarterback. But if you build a program, then you kind of get yourself in a situation where you might not have as much cap space, you might not have as much assets, but the ability to bring in really good players is higher because of the culture that you've built and the opportunity you provide to compete at that high of a level. So I think that's just another interesting thing to see. So we'll see how that whole thing goes. Bull Rush shows says, like what you've been putting down lately, Andrew. Appreciate it. I've been doing this for 3 years. Even when I was hosting the highest rated radio show, I've been doing this for 3 years. We've been in this digital game for a minute. This has been the goal. This is the way that you do it. And even when I was at the flagship, got to be honest, got to be transparent, not always popular. But it's not just a survival thing with me. I'm not trying to go around fake laughing and, just lingering around, trying to actually cover the squad, have a little bit of pride in it. So I appreciate you for being there. Rock WP said he's taking the over on Tim Settlesacks 0.5. It's plus 300, isn't it? On BetUS, I think it was plus 300 when I peeped it. I know today Grenard was even money. If you're betting on sacks, and I make fun of Stutes because he'll do like sack parlays, and I just make fun of it because I don't want to watch a game where I'm just rooting for everyone to get a sack. Like, let's be serious. Pause. But like I'm rooting for points. I'm rooting for yards, like fantasy. But yeah, I'm not rooting for that. Yeah, Space City Ballers, you're right. And I mean the numbers show that. But yeah, Sean and Seth. Sean said the best. That's the resource. That's all you need after that. Go to YouTube, me, Stutes. But yeah, Sean and Seth, they still handle their business. After that, yeah, I feel you. Just me personally. But yeah, that's just kind of like that. When was the last Mechie is weak and can't catch a ball? Jalen, come on. I'm not saying you're wrong now. He's going to be trying to make the team next year. Daniel says you also when you start something with you also have to understand. That's a lot of pressure for me. Let's see. You also have to understand most of the Chiefs' skill positions were injured most of the season. When you look at Brown, Pacheco, and Rice, I brought that up to DeMeco. I don't know if you just got in here. I said that to DeMeco. That was my main question to him today at the press conference. Was it's difficult because I don't even know if the Chiefs have peaked. Like all this talk about the Texans front seven, I don't know if they've peaked. I don't know if they've played their best yet. I feel like there's a chance Baltimore has. There's a chance Buffalo has. Does that matter because their ceiling is really, really high? I don't know. I don't know that, like, we just went through the Chiefs. It's like, they're winning by 1 here, 6 here. Pacheco's hurt for this stretch. Nuke isn't on the team. Hollywood's hurt. Xavier Worthy's trying to figure out what the hell he's doing. They don't even have Kareem Hunt. Like, yeah, I mean, I agree with you completely. I mean, you're gonna have to counter it with the front seven. 100% agree. Evan, I hope Aziz cleans number 15's clock. I'm praying. See? Just come out and say it, Evan. You want to knock Patrick Mahomes the F out. You said you want Patrick Mahomes limping, then you said not wishing injury. You want this. It's okay. You want to punish Patrick Mahomes, and that's going to be their goal. They're going to try to punish him. Hopefully, they're able to rough him up. Hopefully, there's a nice there's a willingness to let the guys play. But we know that sometimes Patrick gets that whistle. Texans haven't peaked yet. I don't know if the offense peaks. I think the switch was flipped a little bit last game. Defensively, I think they're very high. It's a championship caliber defense. I mean, you make a quarterback throw one more interception than he's thrown all season, and you do what they did. That's how you play. They might be peaking on defense. Offense is going to have to creep up a little bit. Don't expect you to get all the way up there. They have to creep up a little bit. For sure. Evan back on the soup. I hate that dude when he's on the field. LOL, Patrick Mahomes. He's easy to dislike just out of envy. But yeah, do you think KC, Rock WP, asking the question a lot of people are asking about the Chiefs, do you think that they'll be rusty? I don't know. I mean, I think the alternative is better for them because I think they're more healthy. Chris Jones got roughed up against the Texans. He's been hurt. Obviously, we know that he can single-handedly win playoff games on that side of the rock. Mahomes had the fake high ankle sprain. And then some of the other guys were banged up. So I think you'd rather be facing them if they played last week. I'll be honest with you, because I think they needed the rest. Whether there's rust or not, I don't know. And I'm always kind of hesitant to say whether or not that's the case, because I think a lot of times there's like a tendency where a team loses and then all of a sudden this like narrative gets created where it's like, well, they were rusty. They had bye weeks. It's like, did they? Like, is that really what it was? Like, is that it? Like the college football playoff this year, I thought was funny because it was like, well, you know, all these conference champions and all these teams that had byes lost. It's like, yeah, Arizona State was a 14-point dog to Texas. They put out a hell of an effort. Could have won that game. Boise State was still an 11-point dog to Penn State. And Georgia Notre Dame was actually a pick 'em where Notre Dame ended up being favored. But all you heard was, well, there's the rust in Ohio State versus Oregon. Ohio State was favored. So like in all four of those bye week games that everyone talked about, the team was an underdog, and it wasn't because they had a bye. It was because just the way that it laid out. But all you heard was, oh, yeah, it was rust. I don't know. It's like when a team loses and someone says they quit. Like, unless there's like tangible proof, like, is that really why they lost? Is it because they quit? I try not to, unless there's like unless they just come out and say, yeah, we were rusty, then there's that. But I don't know how much of a factor it's going to be. I think if they lose, that's going to be one of the main talking points because it's already developed in one of the main talking points, the whole talk of rust. But Kansas City hasn't been a well-oiled machine on offense all year. So I actually think they have an opportunity to kind of get these guys incorporated, get these guys healthy, and figure it out. Like, if Baltimore, like, let's say Baltimore doing what they've done on offense, or like a well-oiled machine came out and looked bad, then I think maybe you could say rusty. Kansas City hasn't been like some sort of well-oiled machine on offense. So I don't know. I think that's kind of interesting. I think it's an advantage that they've been resting, but who knows? Little Jesus says beating the Chiefs plus the refs is going to be a heavy task, especially in Arrowhead, and especially if their offense starts like they did in the beginning of the Chargers game. Yeah, if the Texans offense starts like they did against the Chargers game, they're going to lose. It's going to be over. Be no chance. I mean, last time they faced the Chiefs, CJ Stroud had his best drive, capped off by the Schultz touchdown. Then he threw the interception, and even that mistake was kind of costly. Then you had the tank catch, and then everybody started crying, and the wheels kind of fell off. But yeah, if they play like they did against the Chargers, they're done. If the defense plays the way they did, then, you know, it lowers the blow. But if you're going to play like that, you're not going to be able to have all those mistakes that they had and beat the Chiefs. It's the reality of the situation. So 100,000 million% agree with you on that. The question is, can the Texans front seven be the difference? That's going to be it. If that's what you're hanging your hat on, that's great. That's awesome. Last year, you're kind of dependent on CJ Stroud. You didn't have the talent on defense. Will Anderson was banged up. Steven Nelson was banged up. He's not as good as Kamari Lassiter either. The front seven wasn't as good. The linebacking crew. So you were basically dependent on CJ Stroud. It wasn't realistic. Wasn't realistic to depend on that offense.
Damn it, Bobby.
Which wasn't all Bobby. Bobby had a good year last year. That was a cheap shot. I just like the way it sounds.
Damn it, Bobby.
But if you're hanging your hat on this front seven, this elite front seven, then hey, that's a good thing to hang your hat on. That's a good thing to go to war with. That's a good thing to depend on. No doubt. CJ Stroud did good low key against the Chiefs. He did. He had a couple mistakes, a couple interceptions you can't have. But he did good. He looked pretty good. That one drive. Go back and watch that drive, the Dalton Schultz touchdown. Watch the throw he made to Hutchinson. Watch the throw he made to Nico. Watch the throw he made to Tank. There was also that weak-ass pass interference call on Tank Dell. I don't know what that was. Still trying to figure that one out. But yeah, he was good. He looked good. They're going back 2 ahead. We'll see how it goes. There seems to be a lot of confidence. The 8-point line is interesting. I don't know what direction that goes. I don't know where it moves. It's moving some way. Spoiler alert, it's moving somewhere. Zero doubt about that. It's moving. It's a matter of which direction. Which directions is it going to go? But the eight is moving some way or another. Wouldn't be surprised if it moved down. Big Steve says, I'm not in the mood to watch old ass Kelsey catch first downs wide open and fall down. Well, that's probably going to happen. That's probably going to happen. You are probably going to see that. That is a tradition like no other. He's able to do that. Now, I'll be honest. It's a lot easier to watch than Dalton Schultz sometimes. Being completely honest with each other. At least Kelsey's old. And he's got a lot of miles. Travis Kelce is... How old is Travis? Travis Kelce is 35. He turns 36 in October. Dalton Schultz is... Dalton Schultz is 28. Man, when you think about it that way, maybe Travis is moving pretty damn good. 35 years old, and he's moving like that. Dalton Schultz is 28. Dalton Schultz was born in 1996, and he moves like my 14-year-old golden retriever. Before we finally had to say bye-bye. Rest in peace to Rex. Pour one out for Rex. Lived a good life, 14 years. But when you put it that way, that Travis Kelce is 8 years older than Dalton Schultz, and the way those two guys move, it's kind of crazy. By the way, I like the way that they finally started dumping it off to Cade Stover. They need to find these dump-off options, along with CJ Stroud using his legs. They gotta get that going. How different does this team look with Brevin Jordan? I don't know how much. I don't think it's like a huge difference. I mean, it's another element. It's another dump-off option. You shouldn't be dependent on Brevin Jordan. Ravens are handling their business without Zay Flowers right now. You shouldn't be dependent on Brevin Jordan. Now, you want to make a case for Diggs and Dell and all that, and the offense taking a step back. I don't even think you can make that case. Because the offense sucked all year. I mean, they were bottom 12, bottom 13 in every category over the course of the entire season. They were bad. So I think it's just as systematic. But yeah, I mean, obviously you would like to have Brevin Jordan. He gives you a lot more than these other guys can be. But I don't know. I'm open to the tight end market. If Tyler Warren is there in the late first round, I would think about it. The second round, I don't know. Like Gunnar Helm with Texas in the fourth round or something like that, I'm thinking about it. I don't think the tight end position's on lock. I don't know if Cade Stover is even ready. I will say this about Cade Stover. I've said this a few times. Most of y'all have probably heard me say this multiple times. New audience, though, you know how that works. I think Cade Stover's the type of guy that next offseason he's going to come in looking jacked as hell. 100% promise you. There's a lot of guys that their second year. Hell, Brevin was like that. Brevin was kind of chubby his first year. Henry To'oTo'o came back this year. He said, I was a fat ass. That was a quote to me. I was a fat ass. I said, whoa. He said, nah, you want me to be honest? I was a fat ass. That was my problem my rookie year. But he was what? Cade Stover's going to look jacked. I think his blocking is going to improve. So there is that. Is he ever going to be TE1? I don't know. I mean, you play 3 tight ends in a game. If Cade Stover develops into a solid 2, solid 3, it's a fine pick for day 3. But I would still be in the tight end market. The Dalton Schultz contract sucks. $13 million for that, and then you're doing it again next year. You can get out after that. For what some of these other tight ends went on the market, that's a shitty contract. We talk about the offensive. That's a shitty contract. That was rough, especially for what you've got. It's just a reality situation. I like Dalton. I think he's a cool guy. That's a shitty contract. You look at what Jonnu Smith. I think Jonnu Smith signed a 2-year deal that's worth half of what Dalton Schultz gets in 1 year. Noah Fant, Mike Gesicki with the Bengals. Like what you paid Dalton Schultz, terrible. It's not good. Is what it is, though. And maybe he can flip the switch. He played pretty good the other day. He's playing better, but that ain't $13 million. Damn sure promise you. I think you could use that a lot wiser in a number of areas. Fortunately, you still have these guys on rookie deals, so it's only going to be like 1 year of pain for that. Next year, it's not going to look great either, though. Daniel says, would you say the concept of an ideal QB is someone like Lamar that can do it all? If so, why doesn't CJ do it more often? Well, I mean, I don't think doing what Lamar Jackson does is as simple as I want to do it. I think that is a guy who possesses the number one ability to use his legs of all time in the history of the NFL. So I wouldn't compare anything to Lamar Jackson. Yeah, Lamar's one of the best quarterbacks to do it, especially in the regular season. It's kind of Peyton Manning like right now. He's won multiple MVPs. The criticism comes with it. He's done it in multiple systems. He's constantly shaking haters off. I think CJ needs to use his legs more like Mahomes. Like if we're using like a realistic comparison, and CJ's rushing stats are meh. Like you would think he can't move at all with what his rushing stats are. That was one of his criticisms coming into the league is he didn't use his legs as much. He did it in Georgia, and you got kind of that visual, but he didn't use his legs near as much as he should. But Patrick Mahomes has kind of started doing that a little bit when moving the chains. I think CJ needs to be more willing like a Patrick Mahomes. That would be my thing. Someone says, what is a Robert Woods? It's an older receiver who happens to be on the Houston Texans, who Bobby Slowick likes to still throw bubble screens to.
Damn it, Bobby.
That is a thing. Tight end from Michigan staying in school. He's staying in school. He's going back. So he will not be there. Develop Irv Smith into what? I don't know that Irv Smith can be developed into much more than a guy that you have every once in a while. If you're relying on developing Irv Smith, just the fact that's even said, I'm not even making fun of you. That kind of tells you where the tight end position is right now. So don't be scared of that. Good thing is Cade Stover's coming off a 4-catch performance. Dalton Schultz looks like he has a pulse. He's like the 14-year-old golden retriever that's going for one final swim or whatever. So we'll see how that goes. Texans right now an 8-point favorite. Some people have it at 7.5. I haven't seen it move on my line yet. I'm going to keep an eye on that. Practice tomorrow. What time is practice tomorrow? Practice is a little bit later. Same overall feel-ish. Practice tomorrow is at 1:45. DeMeco's going to speak at 3:15, CJ at 3:30, and then the locker room will be open at 3:45. They're pretty much on time during the playoffs. So there will be that. SNL will be live at 6, probably 15, once we get all that done. And we will see how that goes. Did I say the Texans were an 8-point favorite? They're definitely not a favorite. If I said that, I don't think that. I thought I said 8-point dog, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. No matter how it does go, always remember though, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Subscribe, like, right along. Most importantly, always remember, off season, in season, whatever season, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Thanks for coming in the locker room.
We the source, we the post.
Pause. Thanks for joining the locker room.
We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localized every time, can't stop.